Hi everyone, we are back. Welcome to another exciting session. Today we are diving deep into the world of real-time communication and its implementation in Draftbit. Today we have Sefa with us, our expert engineer. Welcome, Sefa.
Hello all, nice to be back.
Yes, he will take us through an in-depth session on WebSockets, utilizing Xano, and the full implementation in Draftbit step by step. So before we dive in, I want to ask some questions to you, some beginner level questions. So Sefa, can you start by giving us a brief explanation or overview of what WebSockets are and how they differ from traditional HTTP requests?
Okay, so I'm sure there are a lot of content in the internet that will help people understand it better, but WebSockets are basically like constantly open doors between clients and servers in order to make the communication as fast as possible and like continuously deliver data in between them. So, like the best example to WebSockets is one of the examples is going to be the chat implementation. So, like right now, when you open your chat app in your mobile phones and stuff, that app is constantly connected to the server. So, whatever happens on the server side and on the client side, they're just synced to each other simultaneously. So, like in traditional approaches, like when you make a HTTP request, you make a request to the server gets that request, handles that data or whatever, and sends back to you. So it's just knocking door kind of methodology. But on the WebSockets, it's just constantly happening. So a bunch of users connect to a channel. Like you can see that like enters a room and just make noises in that room, and everything that they make in that room will stay in that room, so that everyone can access the data, whoever in that room. So maybe it would be easier for us to explain on once we are playing with the demo that we are going to show in a minute. But the very basic explanation of WebSocket is this, to be honest.
Thank you. It was very clear. Many people in the same room.
Exactly.
So my next question is, now that you're going to show us the implementation using Xano, so how does Xano fit into this picture actually? Or, what makes it a good choice for our users? Are there any others?
There are plenty of free and paid services for WebSockets that you can implement in your apps or and in your Draftbit apps. The reason why I choose Xano is it's a pretty new feature that they brought in, and it's pretty powerful, very easy to implement. They've got good SDK to play around with. But as I told you, like there are other tools like Firebase is real-time database, or Superbase has also a real-time feature. They're all working with the same methodology. You have to go ahead and just set up your WebSocket servers on their platform and use their SDK to connect to that rooms, let's say, and like continue where you to do so. And like majority of our users tend to use Xano, so I decided to use Xano for this demonstration. But again, like all other tools are perfectly fine to use. And yeah, but I think they will find Xano the easiest to implement, to be honest.
I see. Thank you. And maybe you can show us in action, but are there any common challenges that our users might face when working with WebSockets, or in real-time data in Draftbit?
Yeah, like majority of these services have some kind of timeout sessions. So like you have to constantly check the connection status of your client with the server and see if you're connected to the channel and be able to send those messages. Because like when you're on the web app, like it is blocked by the browser. Like if you don't use that connection for a while, it disconnects you automatically, and similar issues happens on the mobile side as well. So Yeah, like initially it's easy to implement, but there are some couple of challenges that you have to take into consideration, and also okay, like you can just create a chat server and just allow everyone in, but like sooner or later you would want to make it a more private session, so not everyone should be able to join to those channels or something. So you should take into consideration the authentication of the app. Luckily, the demo that I did today has a like a very simple login features, and that will allow us to show only the authenticated users can use the chat system.
Great. Then let's see your demo.
Okay, so let me share my screen first. And can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is my phone that I'm mirroring because we would need two devices to demonstrate this task. So let me log in through Draftbit. Second. All right. So before we dive into the Draftbit side, let me talk to you about the Xano part first. When you go to Xano, they have got a good documentation regarding the real time, how it works in Xano, and how you implement it. And they've got a good YouTube video that describes everything or each step that you can take while your implementation. So maybe I can share these with you, Rumesa, after the meeting, and you can share it in the community. And so basically these graphs are like pretty much everything that I tried to explain in the beginning of the conversation. So in Xano, you create channels. Like you can also call these a chat rooms. So people who are eligible to connect to those chat rooms are able to send data to those rooms. And these data doesn't only have to be strings like the messages, can also be images, audio files, video files, anything that you want. So it's not limited to strings only. So, and like as you can see, many users can join one rooms, and like one users can join many rooms and have access to data from those rooms. And in order to set up this, you first have to go to your Xano dashboard. And on the right hand side, there's a three dots on the top, and you can see the real time settings with the beta tag right now. And once you click on this, it's initially disabled. It looks like this. And the first time you enable it, it takes a little while to get it ready and set up the necessary items on that dashboard. So once it's enabled, it gives you one connection hash and like an empty channels section. Again, you can take a look at the Xano video for these, and like this is very super helpful for you. And from here, you create your first channel. I already created one. Let me do it again. So assuming that I just want to create another room called new chat room. There are options where you can use the same route for the channel and have multiple sub channels. So like one channel, as if in the example, like uh, superheroes, and then like Marvel superheroes and DC superheroes and kind of stuff. So you can have multiple chat rooms for this. But for the sake of this demonstration, I will only use one chat room. I'm not going to use enable nested channels. And below that, there are parts that you have to enable, like the permissions. Like you want anonymous clients to be able to send messages to this channel, or like you want to show the presence of the other users to all channel members to show them how many users are there in the channel, and like public messaging and all other stuff. So once you set all these up, you can choose the number of the message history that you want to hold this. But also there's another thing called channel triggers which is being explained very clearly on this YouTube video that Chris from Xano created. So it allows you to keep the records of all chats happening on your app in a Xano database by the help of the trigger. So every time a new message comes from a user to a channel, you can keep the records of those. And this is where we use the channel triggers. And like this has nothing to do with the Draftbit side, so I'm just gonna avoid this. You can take a look at this YouTube video of them. But now, like my chat room looks like this. I just allowed everything, and I'm just keeping the last 250 messages, and I don't have any triggers at the moment. So once we are done, uh, we have got this information, and we can continue. From this moment, it's the front end time. So in order to connect to Xano, it's different than the ones that we are using in the traditional REST API endpoints connections on Draftbit. Like we were using the API module and we were adding the endpoints like that. But for this, for the WebSockets, we have to use some custom code. And there's a library created by the Xano team called Xano SDK, and it explains how to install it on different devices or the web browsers. But for now, all we need to use is this package name, and you have to go to your functions module and the package imports, and you have to import this package. And if we have tested the latest version, there are some fallbacks when you use the latest version. So we suggest you use the 2.0.1 version of this package. So it works perfectly. And like once you're done, you have to implement some functions in order to get it ready. And it's being explained here. So this is the package that we imported, and we just take these two items out. One of them is the Xana client, and this is how we initialize it, and this is how we listen those information. So let's start it. I've already created this demo, but let's start it from the scratch so that we can do it all together at once. So let's create a new blank screen. Let's call this new chat. And inside here, let's go to my functions. After I package import, I go to my files. I created the new custom file. This is only used to be able to import them into my screen functions. So what I do here, I just take the Xano client and Xano object storage. At this stage, we don't need this Xano storage, but I just included since it was included on the documentation here. Once we're done with this custom file, we can go ahead and create a screen functions. So let's say init instance. And let's take this code from here. So we cannot import directly into a screen function, so I'm just deleting this. And my Xano client is a part of my library that I just created. So I import it from here, and there you go. So I created my client. I need to update these values with my new channel information, and the rest is like this. So let's get this data from, sorry, did anyone has a question?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
All right. So this is the key, the connection hash that we are going to using on this connection hash property. And for the base instance base URL is the base URL of your Xano endpoints. So you can just go ahead to any of your endpoints and just choose the base URL, and you can paste it over here with deleting this information at the end. So this is how we defined our client. So once our client is defined, we can connect to channels. So in this case, my channel is called, let me go back, chat room. So we are going to be attaching to the chat room. There you go. And like whenever there is a message, whenever there is an action, I'm just also logging them to the screen. So far, so good. So this is how we initialize it. For now, I'm just gonna save this and start building the UI for the chat system. So for this, let me add a container, and inside this container, let me add a list that will be showing the items in this list. And below this list, let's add another view, which is going to be direction of a row. And in here, let's add a text input and icon button. And we can make this as a send button. And 1 second, let's use this to be flex one. Let's use this as flex one as well. Add a little gap of 8 pixels. And let's make this fill up the entire space. So far, so good. And let's make this screen to be safe area view. And maybe it would be nice if we add some margin to this row. Great. So we have got the text input value. Let's call this message value. We have got the send button, and we will have list. So let's take a look at this list. Let's render some fake data and see how they look. Inside the list, let's add a view, and inside this view, let's add a text that will show us the text. And here will be my message. And the message will be the list item for now. So far, so good. So, but in the traditional chat systems, they don't go from up to bottom, so they go from bottom to top. So for that, what we can do, we can invert this list to show it on from the bottom to front. And at this stage, we can create a screen variable called messages, let's say. It's going to be an object array. Initially, it will be an empty. And messages will be their data of this. So far, so good. And yeah, at this stage, we are almost done with initializing the screen. So whenever we are here on the screen focus, what we can do, we can run the initial edit instance. See, let's open the connections part, the console logs. Once we connect it, we got an action, and that action is called connected. So there you go. Like we have our client has managed to connect to the server. So at this stage, we're able to send messages to those to the clients. So how do we send messages? So let's take a look at it together to the documentation here. Actually, it's here. Once we initialize the channel, we have to use the message method of that channel to send us message. So we're initializing the channel on the screen function. So we have to save this to a state variable so that we can access it anytime we want. Therefore, we go back to our screen variables, connected channel, let's say, and it's going to be an object. Initially, it will be null. Great. And then once we initialize the channel, we can set connected channel, if I don't make any spelling mistakes, would be the channel. There you go. And then let's create another screen variable called send message. And this send message will be using this structure, but instead of channel, it's going to be connected channel. For now, let's use hello world. So whenever we call this function, that message will be sent to the server. So let's save it as it is. And in my icon button, let's use run function, and this function will trigger send message. There you go. So whenever I press this button over here, oh, I make a typo. Sorry. Set connected with one end. It has to be two ends. There you go. So whenever I press this button, like I'm pressing this icon button on here, as you can see, my console log saying that a message is received, and which is with the payload is hello world. So far so good. So which means that we're connected to our server, like WebSocket server. We're able to send messages to it, and we can receive those. So next thing is to display them on the screen and make it more like a more proper. I'm sorry, more proper chat application. So first things first, instead of hello world, what we want to do, we want to send out the message that we just created. So our screen variable for that message was message value. So we go ahead to the send message. So instead of hello world, we're going to say message value. There you go. And we already had this list of messages. So what we want to do is we want to be able to update that list so that will be shown. The messages will be shown on the list itself. So basically, let me console log instance. So whenever I have a new message, let's keep the console log. But what we want to do, we want to set messages and take the previous values from those messages array and return it as the new action and the previous messages. So we just put the new message on the top of the list every time we do this. If we haven't done any typos, that should be fine. Found object key action client payload, which means that, okay, so in here, we were initially listing the list item, but now the list item is an object. Inside this list item, we have got the payload object, and inside this payload, we have got the message. There you go. So let's try to send a new message. Oh, I did not make it properly designed for the mobile views. But as you can see, I can just keep sending messages and see them on the list. So let's try to run this on the simulator and see if we can see the same messages on this and another device. So this one on the right hand side is my own device, and this one is another device on the internet. So they're both going to be connecting to the same server and should be receiving the same messages. There you go. So let's try to write something here. Send it back. There you go. You can see the message from my device. I can continue writing stuff to this section. I cannot click on the quick time, sorry. A new message sent, and the new message will be here. There you go. So this is the very basic implementation of how we structure this. But yeah, like this is like it's very early to call this as a chat application. So we can do some extra stylings here. But in order to win time, I've already done that. And like here you go, we have a chat screen on this part. And I implemented a simple login system. As you can see on the Xano service, I have got an endpoint where when I provide the credentials, I log in and get some information from my server. So once I'm done, so for example, in this one, let me log in with my Cepha Draftbit account. It says log in as Cepha Draftbit. I get those information, store them in a device variable called office hours chat system user variable and the token. So very simple authentication system. And let me use my other account, which is Cepha +1 at Draftbit, and log in with this value. So in this case, as you can see, I've got a chat block for me to use here. So let me do some tests. So message from left, enter. Connected message is not a function. I must have broke something here. 1 second. Variables. Connected channel. Come back here. This is my screen function. Connected channel. Let's try this one. Connected channel that message is not a function, so maybe there is a failure. Let me check. Oh, sorry. Instance design of client. I was doing some extra tests. That's why it's not connected and just throwing an error. There you go. So let's try it again. This right-hand side, I write this message, and it knows that it's my Cepha Draftbit account, and it's the message for me. So it's shown on the right-hand side. And this one, since it's received that message, it's not the active user, it's shown like this. And message from left, enter. This account has the username for Cepha, and this is my active account, so that's why it's shown in here as blue. But this app is Cepha is the other user, so that's why it's branded on the left hand side. So how did we do that? First things first, I updated my send message function. This was my initial send message function, and I created another one called send message with data. As you can see, what we can't, like as I told you before in the beginning of the office hours, we can send anything that we want here. So right now, with the message property, I'm sending the message value, which I used in the text box over here. And I created another value called user. And in this user, I'm just sending the actively logged in user to the system. So whenever I send a message, I'm sending that message with the logged in user's information. So everyone who are connected to this room knows this message and the user who sent it to. So that's the first thing that we did. As you can see, the received message console log of the init instance, like we just get the action and like we log the action, and that action includes everything that we have, and this is the user object. There you go. And this is the message. So everything that we send it to the WebSockets going to be all the data that we send is going to be under the payload. And under this payload, we have got the message and the user data. And we can include the image or the audio clip or whatever you want to include here. And like it can be spread out to all the users who are in that room. So that was the first change that we did. And the second thing, was this using this chat block. So let me go to the chat block. I don't know if you guys have used the blocks feature of Draftbit, but I strongly suggest you do that because it's very helpful in this kind of situation. So this block is like for us to display the message, and like depending on the conditions, we want to render it differently. And like for now, I have a user property time property. I haven't used the time property because you can use like 2 minutes ago or like 5 hours ago or like 201 whatever. Like however you want to display the time. For now, I edited it, but I didn't include it in the design and the message. Once we have those, I've got the message body and I've got some conditional displays. And as you can see, for example, colors, if the message is from me, I want the color to be bluish. If the message is not for me, I want to show it in a different color. But like the colors can be like the logic can be changed a lot. Like for now, for this demo, for example, there are only 2 users in this app, and like every message from my side will be shown as blue, and all the other messages from all the other users will be yellow. But you can use a different, unique color for each users, as you have all in your WhatsApp groups and stuff. So everything that kind of logic can be implemented here. But for now, in this block I created the screen where his screen function that checks if the current logged in user's ID is equals to the block's properties ID. So if they match together, that means that logged in user is the user who sent that message. So display it in blue, otherwise display it in yellow. And similarly, we have got the alignments. So if the message owner is the current logged in user, I want this message to be shown on the right hand side, otherwise on the left hand side. So that's the words that we use: flex end and flex start on the alignments dynamic properties. And the rest is just some stuff. So for example, I just make the maximum width of this blocks to be 60% of the bit because I don't want it to take it entire space for long messages like this, let's say. Let's go back to chat screen. Let's type in something very long and send it. There you go. It's not going to be longer than the 60% of the screen, and you can see it's done that. And you can play around with this. You can add extra features, extra conditions, and most probably use a keyboard aware scroll view, and don't make the same mistake that I did for this demo, so that you should be able to see your text box while you're typing. And I think that's all from this demo so far. So unless you have any other questions, Rumesa or you guys, I think we're at the end of my demo.
Thank you, Safa. It was super clear. Great demo. Thanks a lot. So let me ask, do you have any questions, guys, for Safa for this demo?
I have a question, Arvind here. So, in terms of this is fine. I mean, in terms of chat messages, but if we have to send, say, a document within this chat, how do we do that? Because I think Xano allows that. But
exactly. Well, if you go to the Xano documentation, it shows you how to upload files, and like Xano is the client that we use. So let me show it to you from the documentation in an instance. So this is how we create our clients. So from here, if you use the post method and call the file upload, and the file upload file should be the base64 string, can be the base64 string of your file. And like if you use the open image pickers or whatever in Draftbit, you can get the 64 format of that, and you can just send it to the server, and then it will be spread out to other users. And that's how you can handle this logic. Or like you can also share links, and like in the front end, you can handle previewing that images or like links. For example, instead of sending the entire image through the WebSockets, you can just share the links and render them in the front end if you want.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a question, if that's okay.
Of course.
This seems to be, you're sort of talking about a chat room within your app. What about if, for example, you want to enable specific users within your app to chat with each other? So then essentially they would be selecting someone or a number of people that would then create a chat room that was specifically for them.
Yes, that's perfectly possible. The chat system that like the socket system that Xano uses has this authentication calls. So like let me show it to you: set auth token and set real time auth token. So like I don't know if you have used Xano before, but once you log in, it creates an authentication token, and that's how you set those authentication tokens for those channels. Right now, I haven't seen that feature in Xano that will allow you to choose specific users for specific channels. It's either allows you to use and allow anonymous users to be able to post in those channels or only logged in users. Well, for your specific case, what I would do if it was one of my apps, I would create a table on the Xano part for those users and who are allowed to use that chat room. So I would render it on the front end. So like if that user is allowed to enter to that chat room, uh, like if they're like, I would set the conditions in the table in Xano so that once I logged in, I can render the chat rooms accordingly and show the chat rooms that I want them to see. And that's how they can connect. But on Xano, you cannot specifically define which users can access to which chat rooms. You can either be logged in users or anonymous users. That's all. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All right. In fact, I'm currently working on something like that for an experts client in Draftbit. Like they want us to have some specific chat rooms for specific use cases. So people who wants to have some discussions about surfing would be allowed in specific chat room, and others can be in other chat rooms and stuff. So only logged in users will be there. So that's how I'm gonna be planning that. So I will structure the database so that I will allow certain users to be able to join certain chat rooms, and I will do all of those in the front end level. Okay. Any other questions?
I don't think there is.
Let me share these links through Zoom chat as well, so that where's there you go. This is the video for Xano parts, like that defines the triggers and stuff, and this is the SDK documentation. It really helps you a lot how to use their SDK, and this is the documentation in the Xano part. So these are all very clear documentation that will help you a lot while you're creating your chat system. And what else I can say? Yeah, that's all from my side, to be honest.
Great, thank you. So Arvind is asking, when would this recording available? So I think we can send you as an email to the attendees, but this will be available in our YouTube channel within 2 weeks, hopefully. But for attendees, you have the option to receive it immediately after this call ends. So, Gavin asked my question, so I don't have any questions too. If you don't have any questions, I mean, it doesn't have to be related to real-time chat though. While we have Safa here, if you have any specific questions for your projects, you can ask him right now.
Yeah.
But if you don't, I think we can wrap up the session. And we hope this deep dive into WebSockets and Xano and their implementation in Draftbit helped you, and will help to build robust real-time chats in your projects. And please stay tuned for more sessions because we're planning more. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions after the session.
And like one more thing, like if you ever wanna try to add this feature to your apps and you're struggling with how to do it, you can always choose one of our like premium support plans, and like dedicated expert can help you build this chat system with you in your app. So you can take that into mind as well.
Yes, thank you. And then that's all. Until next time.